Hey, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Philip's Hot House, where we make videos about cameras, camera gear, filmmaking, and stuff like that in a really hot room that causes me to sweat and look disgusting. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Godox VL 150. This is a daylight balanced COB LED light. This is a pretty close competitor to the Aputure 120D or 120D Mark II. This comes in currently at the time of filming this video in late July 2020 at $399 US in comparison to the 120D Mark II, which is currently $745 US. So it's quite a bit cheaper, and you do get a pretty equivalent light in terms of quality, in terms of just accuracy of the light output, and then also just the strength of the output. This measures up pretty much neck and neck, if not a little bit more, than the Aperture light. So this is rated to output 6400 lux at 1 meter, although I've seen some videos where that's actually a little bit low. It's more like 6800, but that's pretty, I don't know how much difference that really makes. And then with the included reflector, that output actually jumps all the way to 61,000 lux at 1 meter, which is pretty insane. It's like 10 times, almost 10 times the output just by using the reflector. But keep in mind, the reflector is going to change the way this outputs light. So without the reflector, you're getting more of a floodlight. It kind of spreads a little bit wider. I don't know exactly what the beam angle of this is, but with the reflector, it's going to narrow that to more of a spotlight. So if you're using some sort of modifier like a softbox or any other kind of diffusion, you're probably going to want to use the bare light to get the maximum spread of light, as opposed to using this, which is going to really give you a spot and kind of a more of a focused, hot, bright source. It's not going to really fill up that diffusion as well. But anyway, if you need a really bright spot, then you have it. So let's just go over the accessories real fast. So for $399, not only are you getting the light, which is pretty cool, and a pretty good price, but you do get the included reflector. I guess included was kind of redundant. You also get a nice carrying case, which I think is a pretty good bonus. Godox has definitely taken a page from the Aperture playbook, so Aperture's been including these style carrying cases with their lights for a while now. Yeah, so it's nice to get, so instead of having to go out and buy some sort of Pelican case or something like that, having it included is always great. And it seems, it's going to be pretty high quality. It's all padded, the walls are padded, and then it has little foam padded inserts that are Velcro that you can adjust and move around. So just a really nice bonus. It has a zippered pouch on the lid, and it also comes with a little strap, so you can put the strap on and then carry it around on your shoulder. And then it has an included remote, and the remote is okay. It's definitely nice to have for situations like this. For YouTubers especially, you can just very easily increase the output of the lights. And the one downside of the remote, as opposed to the light controller itself, so the controller, you can actually dim the light all the way down to 0% up to 100% in increments of 1. With the controller, for some reason, you can only go down to 10%. And then these lights have the ability to be chained together, so you can get multiple lights and then operate them with one control box, one remote, and then also there's an app that you can get, and you can control multiple lights with any of those things. So you do obviously get the control box. The control box has antennas, so it's Bluetooth enabled, so you can control it with the app. The control box also has this little nylon loop, so you can hang it from a light stand. And it also has a V-mount plate on the back, so you can operate the light with a V-mount battery, which is, of course, not included. And then quickly going over some of the other things that I didn't even know were going to be included. You get a couple of gels, so you get a green, red, and blue, and then also a yellow gel. It also comes with barn doors, which is always nice to have to be able to control the spill of light. You also get a little honeycomb grid, which will further just narrow the beam of light down. This also cuts the output quite considerably, and this just fits into there. And these also slot into the barn doors. There's a couple clips here, and they also just magnetize to the barn door. You'll need to use the reflector with all these accessories because the barn door mounts to the reflector and then those slot into the barn doors. I just want to quickly talk about the build quality. I'm pretty impressed with the build quality. I think these Godox video lights have come a long way in a short amount of time. So Godox kind of really jumped on the scene in terms of video lights with the SL60, which a lot of YouTubers were utilizing and touting as kind of a 120D alternative for like a fraction of the price. I think you can get that light for $150 or less. But this one I think is much closer to that D120 in terms of just features and just build quality. And so the housing is mostly metal, where it's got some plastic on the ends that kind of clamps everything together. But the plastic is very strong, dense. It feels, I wouldn't be opposed to having a whole light made out of plastic, but I'm sure that the metal probably has some heat dissipation characteristics as well. You know, the mount where the light sits is also metal. It's basically just got vents all over it, and then there's a little fan on the bottom that's going to blow air out through the top. The yoke is plastic, but once again, this is very strong, dense plastic. It feels very strong and stable. The yoke also has the knob to tighten the. When you loosen it, obviously you can change the angle of the light, and then it's got like rosette teeth on it. So I can't imagine that this would slip if you have a heavy modifier on the front of it. It's going to hold it. I'm not really going to try to yank on it and see how strong it is, but I would venture to guess that it's going to be pretty strong and stable. The light also has an umbrella holder built into it, so which is nice. A lot of times you'll see the umbrella holder built into the yoke. The benefit of having it on the light itself is so if you do change the angle, the umbrella is going to change with the light, so the light will be shooting through the middle of the umbrella, as opposed to having it, you know, shift off to the bottom, top, or something. So it's nice to have it on the light itself. And then this is also a Bowens mount light, so any Bowens type accessories will be compatible with this. So I know that, you know, Aputure has released a bunch of accessories for their lights. So you've got the soft boxes, you've got the Fresnels, etc. Those will all work with this, as well as any other Bowens mount accessory. There's no controls on the light itself. All you do have here is just a 4-pin XLR type connector. So the controls, the light is actually controlled just with the control box, or with the remote, or with the app. Now the control box is somewhere where you're also going to take a little bit of hit in terms of features and build quality compared to the Aputure light. So this is plastic as well, but it seems fine, but it doesn't feel as rugged and sturdy as the light itself. You're also not getting anywhere near as many features on this as opposed to the Aputure. So really all you can do is turn it on and off, control the brightness from 0 all the way to 100 in increments of 1, and then control, you know, change the groups if you have multiple lights and the channel. As opposed to the Aputure lights, which have a lot of effects built into them, this light doesn't have any effects. So, you know, none of like the simulations of lightning or like a television screen or anything like that. You're going to have to do that the old-fashioned way by dimming and brightening the light as you see fit. Another hit in terms of just overall ease of use in terms of the 120D Mark II is the fact that you have an additional power brick. Whereas with the 120D Mark II, the power brick and the control box are one unit. So you do have an additional bit of cabling and a big brick to kind of lug around and manage. The really good thing about this light is that all of the cables are really long. So this 4-pin locking connector from here is about 6 feet, or just a little bit over 6 feet. And then the other XLR type connector that goes from the control box to the light itself is also over 6 feet long. And then the power cord that goes from the power brick to the wall is, I don't know how long it is, but it's at least 10 feet long. It's really long. That's a scientific measurement. One other thing that I don't like is that the cable is built into this, so if this cable ever got broken, you'd have to replace the whole unit. Whereas with the Aputure lights, I know that all of the cables are separate that have locking connectors. So if you ever damaged a cable, you would just need to replace the cable as opposed to having to replace this whole thing. And we're going to wrap up this video. I'm going to do the last little section, but I'm going to switch over to the light itself so we can just kind of get an idea of how it looks. So it's at 8% brightness right now, and you can see as I turn it how it goes in 1% increments. That's at 27%. And I wish I had a 120D to test it against. The light I was using before is like an old Alzo Digital 3000 light, which I don't even think is for sale anymore. So I don't really think it's a viable or really relevant comparison to make. But that light, just to give you an idea, is a pretty big COB daylight light as well, and I had it at max power. And this is only at 27%. So we'll just go ahead and crank it real quick and see. Oh, there we go. We're at 100%. And this light is actually bouncing off this wall here and then coming back through a piece of unbleached muslin to give it a nice soft lighting wraparound, whatever. So it's not even like pointed at me, but I do have some footage of that so you can see how that looks, but we'll go back. One other test I wanted to do is a high frame rate test. So we'll shoot in various frame rates at 180 degree shutter to see if there's any flickering issues. So that was one thing that came up after a lot of people had been using the SL60 for some time, is that they noticed that there is some flickering in high frame rates with that light. So I'll show you the frame rates that I have written up here behind me, and spoiler alert, I didn't see any flickering issues with the light, so that's good to know. So that's it. I just wanted to give a quick overview of my impressions of this light, the Godox VL 150, after having it for just a few days now and just kind of using it in these scenarios and just kind of testing it out. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. If your main concern is having a light of this output and this quality, then I think it definitely is a viable contender to the Aputure 120D Mark II. I couldn't see spending the extra money on that unless you really needed the effects that that light has, and also maybe if you already do have other Aperture lights and you want to kind of stay in their system and you can control multiple lights with one remote or with the app, then that might be another consideration. But if just the light output and quality is your primary concern, then I think this light is more than sufficient, if not even maybe better than the Aperture light. So as always, if you have any questions or comments, please comment. I always get back to people. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, fine, just thumbs down. Be that way. And feel free to subscribe. It definitely helps out Google. So yeah, help them out. See you later.